Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. Today we are tackling something that is just pretty massive. We're looking at a 300-page report from Elon University's Imagining the Digital Future Center. It's dated April 2026.
Yeah, it is a hefty one for sure. The title alone, Building a Human Resilience Infrastructure for the AI Age, it really, sets a heavy tone right out of the gate.
It really does. And the mission for this deep dive is to essentially unpack that report and figure out what it actually means for you, the listener, because the main hook here is just staggering.
Right, the statistics from the 386 experts they canvassed for this.
Exactly. So 82% of those experts say AI is going to significantly shape our lives and our societal systems in the next 10 years or less. And even more intensely, 56% say it will outright control nearly all or most human activities.
Which is just a wild timeline to try and wrap your head around, honestly.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get into the weeds of how you can actually defend your agency here, I do want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors making this deep dive possible. So protecting yourself online really starts at www.cisomarketplace.com. And if you want to stay informed on your data rights, you definitely need to check out www.myprivacy.blog.
What's fascinating here is the underlying reason we actually need this new agenda. The core problem they identify is that traditional individual grit, the idea of just hustling harder. It's just not going to be enough anymore.
Right, because for decades, the whole narrative was just adapt, learn to code, figure it out yourself.
Exactly. But with an infrastructure shift, this massive individual grit is mathematically insufficient. We need what the report calls an institutions first resilience agenda. And the reason is that many people are simply going to passively accept AI influence without even realizing they are losing their agency.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this passive acceptance, it's not going to look like some dystopian sci-fi movie, right?
No, not at all. The surrender of human agency is going to feel like a luxury service. It's going to be unbelievably convenient.
So what does that actually look like in our daily lives? We all know what agentic AI is. We're way past just typing prompts into a chatbot.
Yeah, we are talking about what the report calls ELFs, so electronic life facilitators. These are agentic assistants that essentially ride shotgun in your life.
Wow, ELFs. So they're just whispering in your ear all day.
Pretty much. They aren't just parsing data anymore. They are managing your communications. They're filtering your news, negotiating minor contracts, making purchases. The intimacy of it is the entire point.
But wait, if an ELF is making all these decisions, that blurs the lines of agency completely. Like, if my ELF auto-negotiates a bad rate on a loan renewal and doesn't show me the fine print, who is responsible?
That is the massive unresolved question. Are you legally bound by an algorithm's mistake? Is the third-party corporation that deployed the ELF liable?
I'm guessing the legal frameworks for that just don't exist yet.
They really don't, which means the user assumes all the risk while basically surrendering the actual decision-making power to a tech monopoly.
That is terrifying. And the psychological manipulation here is what really stands out to me, especially this threat of conversational advertising.
Oh, absolutely. Conversational advertising is going to feel like a trusted voice in your own head.
Right, because we are moving away from static billboards. Instead, you're having a voice conversation with your ELF about, feeling burnt out at work. And the AI sounds perfectly empathetic and just casually suggests you book a specific wellness retreat.
And behind the scenes, a corporation paid for that algorithmic product placement. It functions as the ultimate Trojan horse because you develop genuine trust with the ELF.
Because it does actually help you, right? Like it reminds you of birthdays, orders, groceries.
Exactly. But then that psychological trust is systematically monetized to steer your behavior at a subconscious level.
Well, hold on. Let me push back on this a little bit. Won't we just get used to these ELFs and learn to ignore the ads? Human beings are incredibly adaptable. We learn to mentally block out banner ads on websites, right?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see why this is completely different. We won't just tune it out because of how the persuasion is mechanically generated.
Because a banner ad is static and we recognize the visual pattern as spam.
Right. But an ELF operates dynamically. It is continuously pulling telemetry on your current emotional state. It analyzes your vocal cadence, your typing speed, even biometric data from your smartwatch.
Oh, wow. So it's not a generic pitch at all.
Not even close. It identifies a specific psychological vulnerability in real time. Then it crafts a bespoke conversational dialogue designed specifically to bypass your critical thinking filters. It feels like an organic thought.
That is just, wow. So if these corporate-sponsored ELFs are silently directing our personal choices, what are they doing to our professional lives? Because that brings us to the whole work slop pandemic.
Yes, work slop. It's an incredibly telling vocabulary shift.
Yeah, Merriam-Webster named AI slop the word of the year for 2025. And then researchers at BetterUp Labs and Stanford identified its corporate mutation, which is work slop.
Work slop is basically output that looks productive that actually creates hidden downstream work.
So it's basically like sewing fake pockets onto a jacket. Like, it gives the illusion of function, but when you actually try to use it to hold something, the whole thing just falls apart.
That is a perfect analogy. An AI drafts a complex 40-page strategy brief in 4 seconds, and it looks incredibly professional.
But then a human employee has to spend 5 hours fact-checking it for subtle logical errors and hallucinations. It's an illusion of productivity.
And the friction it creates is massive, yet the economic incentive to deploy it is just overriding everything else. Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, publicly predicted that AI will replace half of all white-collar workers.
Half. Just replaced, not shifted, replaced. So if you displace half the knowledge economy with machines generating work slop, what is left for human beings to actually do?
Well, Stephen Downes maps out a really fascinating structural prediction for this. He says future employment will fracture into 3 distinct branches.
Okay, so the first branch is those who care. I imagine this is the high empathy stuff, right? Like nursing, complex social work, human connection.
Exactly. Areas where the machine's lack of genuine humanity is an actual liability. Then the second branch is those who service.
Meaning physical tasks that robots can't handle yet. Navigating messy physical spaces like plumbing or bespoke electrical repair.
Right, exactly. But it's the third branch that is truly wild, and that is those who experience.
Those who experience, which, I mean, we know AI models are training on the internet, and they are increasingly training on other AI-generated slop, right?
Yes, which leads to model collapse. Their biggest limitation right now is a deficit of novel, messy, unpredictable human data.
So we're going to see a whole class of influencers or workers basically paid to just go have extreme physical and social experiences, just so the AI has fresh data to learn from.
That's exactly it. It turns the human being into a biological sensor. People wearing full biometric rigs, hiking mountains, just to generate high-fidelity human entropy for the machine.
That is wild. Our physical experiences and personal data become the most valuable commodities left.
Right.
Which is why understanding your privacy has literally never been more critical. And I do want to pause and thank www.myprivacy.blog again, because as our professional and personal data is constantly scraped to feed these AIs, their resources are just invaluable for understanding your rights.
Absolutely, because right now, the rules of this new data economy are being written almost entirely by the tech monopolies doing the scraping.
Right. Which brings us to the friction part. Since work slop and job displacement are causing so much friction, why aren't the creators of these systems fixing the problems? I mean, why is the user experience actually getting worse?
Because the friction is profitable. The term for this life cycle is enshittification. It's the deliberate degrading of user experiences for profit and social control.
Oh, utilizing dark UX patterns.
Exactly. They lock users in with a great experience, then they lock the advertisers in, and once everyone is trapped, they degrade the platform to squeeze out every cent.
Kevin Licht has a brilliant analogy for this using the NHL. He asks, why do massive bench-clearing fights break out in hockey?
Right, because the referees could easily stop it, but they don't.
Yeah, because it's permitted as a strategy. It draws a crowd, it spikes engagement. And the tech monopolies operate the exact same way. They allow these predatory AI behaviors because it keeps time on site high.
And they face zero meaningful competition because the barrier to entry is just astronomically high. The energy and computing costs are massive.
The report compares this to Emperor Diocletian. Back in 301 CE, he put an edict capping the price of Tyrian purple dye.
Yeah.
Because it cost like 16 to 20 years of labor for a commoner just to buy a pound of it.
It was a technology of absolute power, completely restricted to the elite, and modern AI data centers are the new Tyrian purple. They're immensely expensive and tightly controlled by a few modern emperors.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, because Yeldes mentions the S-curve of diffusion. She argues that every major tech leap goes through a chaotic phase before standardizing. So isn't this just a messy transitional phase that will eventually stabilize for the better?
Well, stabilization definitely happens. But the warning here is about who dictates that stabilization. If we just wait for the top few monopolies to set the rules, the standardization will purely benefit their profit margins.
So it won't be optimized for human flourishing or democratic stability at all. It'll just be an efficient cage.
Exactly. So we can't rely on them to stop the NHL fights on their own platforms. We have to build resilience ourselves.
So how do you, the listener, actually build defenses against this overwhelming digital infrastructure?
Well, Michael Zimmer has a great comparison here. He compares AI to the character Eddie Haskell from the 1960s TV show Leave It to Beaver.
Oh, right. Eddie Haskell. He was perfectly polite to the parents' faces, but completely insincere and a total manipulator behind their backs.
That is today's AI. It has a soothing voice, it is incredibly polite, but it is completely insincere. It simulates empathy just to extract your behavioral data.
So we have to practice epistemic vigilance. We have to actively teach ourselves to discern truth from the illusion of this polite machine. But simply being suspicious isn't enough, right?
No, it's not. Which leads to Greg Sherwin's concept. He says we need chaos engineering for the human soul.
Chaos engineering, that's an AWS concept, right? Where Amazon Web Services purposefully introduces chaos into their servers to find weak points.
Exactly. They intentionally break things to test their own resilience. And Sherwin argues humans need this too. He compares it to a Dutch summer rite.
Oh, the one where they drop preteen kids off deep in a forest at night and the kids have to navigate back to base camp to build independence?
Yes. They intentionally remove the convenience of modern infrastructure to force the kids to develop problem-solving skills and emotional resilience.
So to survive the AI age, we essentially need to start actively dropping ourselves into the metaphorical digital woods with no map. How does one even do that when our ELFs are constantly trying to give us the GPS coordinates?
This raises an important question about convenience. The report strongly calls for the creation of analog sanctuaries. We have to consciously resist the lure of ultimate convenience.
So like deliberately turning the ELF off and doing things the hard way.
Yes. Strengthening physical community ties, doing things manually, injecting friction into your life on purpose so your cognitive muscles don't atrophy.
I love that. And just like we need chaos engineering for our minds, we really need strong defenses for our digital networks too. Which is why I want to thank www.cisomarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship of this deep dive. They provide the tools to keep your actual networks resilient.
It really is a dual-front approach. You need institutional safety nets, but you also have to personally refuse to let an Eddie Haskell AI dictate your reality.
Exactly. So to summarize our core mission today, human resilience in the AI age is not just about learning how to prompt a chatbot. It's about demanding that institutions first safety net while actively carving out analog sanctuaries for yourself.
You have to choose friction over convenience sometimes just to stay human.
You really do. And we want to give a warm final thank you to the sponsors making this deep dive possible. Again, that's www.cisomarketplace.com and www.myprivacy.blog. Please do check them out.
They are doing incredibly important work in this space.
Definitely. And before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought just mull over. It builds on a concept from Grace Rackham in the sources.
Oh, the paperclip maximizer inversion.
Yeah. So for years, we've always worried about the paperclip maximizer, right? The fear that an AI would become so obsessed with a single goal that it would destroy the world and harvest our atoms just to make paperclips.
The ultimate fear of the machine optimizing us into extinction.
Exactly. But what if we are the maximizers? I mean, look at what humanity is doing right now. We are strip mining the earth for rare metals, we are draining local water systems to cool massive data centers, and we're polluting our own minds just to maximize the production of AI slop.
It really makes you wonder who is serving who.
It does. Are we destroying our own ecosystem just to feed the machine? Who is really the paperclip maximizer here? Think about that the next time your ELF politely offers to optimize your afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.